How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Next Goal Wins TV. Today we got another tactical analysis for you guys, and what better match to do it for than the Super Cup final between Real Madrid and Barcelona. A completely one-sided match where Barcelona just absolutely dominated almost every aspect of the game, including a couple of good counterattacks, which is typically what we see from Real Madrid. I noticed a couple of key themes throughout the match, which I think were the reasons for Barcelona winning, and they were Barcelona's successful possession because of lazy pressing, Real Madrid leaving three players higher up for the counterattack, Barcelona's high press, forcing Real Madrid into longer balls that Barca were prepared for, player movements between Barcelona players to draw out defenders and create spaces in behind, and finally, I think Barcelona had some special players with Lamine, Rafinha, and Koundé. We'll break that all down here shortly, but let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of the match and where it went wrong for Real Madrid. Before we get into Barcelona's dominance, we have to start with Real Madrid's counterattack goal in the first few minutes of the match. I think ideally, this is how Real would have wanted the game to play out over the 90 minutes. Knowing that Barcelona was going to play a high press, and specifically corner kicks were really good opportunities for Real Madrid to counter. The interesting part of the match was that Hansi took the risk of giving up a goal or two on counterattacks, knowing that as long as the high press worked, they'd be able to prevent Real Madrid from ever getting the ball up to the front three. And this is where I noticed something interesting throughout the match, was that when Barcelona had possession building out, they would push Alex Balde much higher up than Jules Koundé because the risk of Vinicius on the counterattack was much more dangerous than Rodrigo. And as you can see in these clips, Koundé was much more disciplined to stay and cover the gap, and I thought this was actually really smart from Hansi Flick. And going back to how I said Barcelona's possession was very successful, you can see how there was very little intensity from Real Madrid's front players to prevent Barcelona playing through the lines and getting forward. And I think the reason they allowed these players to not defend and stay higher up is because they were hoping that the rest of the team would recover the ball, and then once again, they'd have a counterattack opportunity. But this is where it was really disappointing for Real Madrid, because the few counterattacks that they did have, there were very few players making the forward runs, and Barcelona got plenty of numbers back in time. Even at times when Barcelona played their typical high line, not enough Real Madrid players wanted to put in the effort, and again, it was easy for Barcelona to recover the ball or for Szczesny to come out and clean it up. So now let's get into Barcelona's high press. Whether it was goal kicks or live play, I noticed that Barcelona always wanted to force the long ball. They prevented the ball from getting to Camavinga and Valverde, confident that they would win the ball in the air. And even though there were times that Real could have played around Barcelona, I saw very little confidence from players like Lucas Vazquez to take his space, instead going backwards and playing safe. And if you're a Real Madrid fan, you should be really disappointed with Camavinga and Valverde, who didn't seem to want the ball at all, making it very easy for Gavi and Pedri to just close down those spaces. I think Madrid's weakness when they're being pressed is that they don't have a target forward who's comfortable with the ball in the air, or who can at least flick it on to Vinicius, Rodrigo, or Mbappe to run. Playing Mbappe central means that you now have three attacking players who all want the ball at their feet, and they're very unlikely to even contest the ball in the air. So as long as Barcelona's front players could force the long ball, there was actually very little risk. The next reason why Barcelona were so good is the anticipation and the movement of their players. The first and fifth goal were very similar, with Barcelona finding a player in a central space who could one-touch the ball into a run of Lamine Yamal or Rafinha. And if you look at the very first goal, Lewandowski does a really good job of drawing Rudiger in, and before he even touches the ball, Lamine Yamal is already making his run forward. This recognition of movement has to happen in a split second, and Barca caught Real off guard like this on multiple occasions. The fifth goal is almost exactly the same. Lewandowski checks in, once again dragging Rudiger out of position, and although it's Casado who gets the ball instead, the space in behind has already been created, with Rafinha making the same run that Yamal had made in the first goal, once again early and before the ball is played, so that he can get in behind and ultimately score. And the ultimate slap in the face, if you will, was when Barcelona scored the fourth goal right before halftime, almost identical to Mbappe's goal and a trademark of Real Madrid, the counterattack. Off a Real corner kick and giveaway, Lamine picks up the ball and eventually gives it to Rafinha, who gives it to Balde for a finish. And if we pause the video, right as the counterattack starts, you can see Jude Bellingham completely giving up at this point. And I think that's the story of the game. The only thing left to mention is that Lamine Yamal, Rafinha, Jules Koundé, with a fantastic ball to Rafinha for the fifth goal, were all game changers in this match. And when you have special players like that show up in big games, there's nothing you can do, especially when Real Madrid's biggest players decided that they wanted to stay at home. And once Szczesny got the red card in the 56th minute, I think it evened out the playing field a little bit more, but the game was too far gone for Real to really salvage anything. And I actually think that once Francisco Garcia, Brahim Diaz, and Luka Modric came on, Real defended much better, but Barcelona were already up 5-2 with no urgency to score any more goals. What a disappointing night for Real, but if you're a Barca fan, you should be really happy with how Hansi Flick tactically outclassed Ancelotti. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think, and we'll catch you in the next one.